Today we had started with the social stakeholding and managerial ethics, and under this subtopic under Unit 1, we had talked about social stakeholding. We learned the concept with regards to social stakeholding. We also saw the features of social stakeholding and the cases or the arguments which support social stakeholding. So today we're going to deal with the arguments which are against social stakeholding, or the reasons why organizations are against social stakeholding. So the main motives are motive of profit earning. So according to the organizations, according to firms, social stakeholding is said to be distracting and also costly because they feel that the organization main motive is profit making, and if they are involved in social stakeholding, it could distract them from their main objective. So the involvement of the business in social work will divert its attention also from its main objectives. Moreover, the performance of social obligations involves a large sum of money. When you're trying to help somebody out, when trying to donate, it involves a large sum of money, and such spendings, because they're not going to profit the organization other than in terms of giving the organization more goodwill and more face, it'll only be costing the organization and lead to adverse positions if the financial position of the concern is at stake, or rather it will affect the financial position of the concern because it'll be losses only and there's no inflow if you're doing social stakeholding. And secondly, burden on consumers, because it leads to, as we've said earlier, if you're doing social stakeholding, it'll lead to financial problems, right? Because you're not getting anything in return. So if the firm is not getting anything in return, then the consumers will finally have to pay the brunt of this increase or this social stakeholding. Because when the firm is going to do something good for somebody else without expectations of a profit, that means they have to get that money from somewhere else, right? In order to cover up for that loss that they've made. So how are they going to get the money? By increasing the cost of the products. So if they're increasing the cost of products, ultimately the consumers will have to pay for it, right? So ultimately, it is the consumers only have to pay the burden of social obligation. And thirdly, influencing social setup. The argument against social stakeholding with regards to influencing of social setup is basically how social stakeholding affects how society acts. Okay, so a business concern, they command large economic and human resources, right? They're in control of humans as well as economic resources in the society. So when they spend money in solving social problems, then they may try to influence the society for their own good because they're doing something for the benefit of the society. So in return, they might want the society to do something for them, right? So they will be influencing the society. And as a result of that also, because they're helping the society, so the society may ultimately start depending upon the business. So the influence of business on society, it may lead to social, economic, as well as political problems. And the next point is lack of social skill. So managers are basically people who deal with businesses. They deal with business heads, and some managers may not have social skills. Managers may not be equipped to deal with people or with the problems of the society, okay, because they have studied about management problems, they have studied about business problems, and they may not know exactly what are the problems with the society. So they may have some trouble dealing with the problems of the society. So social scientists or social workers are the right persons to be dealing with social problems, and not our business managers who basically maybe they have an MBA in management, maybe they have an MBA in human resource, right? So they may not have the skills, they may not have the educational qualifications required to deal with the social problems. Okay, so business managers may create difficulties rather than solving the problems, since they may not understand how sensitive the society is. All right. And the next point is reduction in competitiveness. Now, in case of social stakeholding, globalization of markets has increased competition from both internal as well as external organizations. So the business has to stay competitive in order to face the competition and also to maintain its market share properly. And when it undertakes social responsibilities, it will involve a lot of expenditure. And this increase in expenditure will lead to an increase in cost of production, which will ultimately affect the competitiveness of the market. And as a result, it is quite better to avoid expenses, all these additional expenses, in order to keep the costs under control, because the more they opt for social obligation, the higher the cost will be, and then the consumers may not want to buy their products anymore. And the last argument against social stakeholding is that it lacks a broad public support. So the main argument here is that the public does not like the business organizations to interfere in the society problems. So business will not be successful in taking up social issues if the society is against them from taking care of the social issues. Okay, so these are arguments or disadvantages of social stakeholding. Next, we have social issues for business. Now, various thinkers have specified social and other issues where business should contribute. So a feeling has come to say that the business does not operate only to promote and protect its own interest, but also it should also try to help society on which it is entirely dependent. So some of these social issues which require business attentions could be discrimination in case of employment. So one of the social issues that businesses can deal with without any problems or without any hindrances from other outsiders is discrimination in employment. They should employ people based upon their experience, based upon their qualifications, rather than by judging them based upon their gender, based upon their caste. Okay, there should be no discrimination at all. So as we've seen in most situations, women and minorities have generally been discriminated as far as it comes to career and professions. Okay, so they're saying that everybody should be given equal opportunities in order to get jobs, so there should be no discrimination when it comes to employment. And the second point is support for educational institutions. So what they mean is that businesses should provide funds for the development of the educational facilities of the country. Why? Because these educated people later will be the ones who might join the firm, right? So you need educated people to join the firm, and this is one way to get people to join your firm. So they may not, of course, directly benefit the business, but there will be other benefits that comes from here. Maybe they can sponsor people, and then after that they can enter into a contract with the people that they've sponsored, right? They can give them loans, help them study. Once they have the qualifications or the experience desired, then they can ask them to work for them, right? That is going to be beneficial to the business as well. And next point is help for charitable causes. So business should spend for charitable causes also where there is no return to it, where they cannot expect any kind of return. So these institutions could include the help for the needy, sick, old aged, right? These institutions are basically run based upon generous donations from the people. So the business concern will at least have the satisfaction of contribution. Even though they're not getting anything in return, at least they'll get the feeling of satisfaction and goodwill. And the fourth point is modernizing facilities. Now, business undertakings can also undertake modernization and also upgradation of technology plans on a regular basis. And by doing so, it'll help to increase production and also reduce the cost of products. So there should be efforts to create more and more employment opportunities so that people are going to be able to get jobs. And modernizing activities also help a concern to reduce pollution in terms of air pollution, water pollution, and even land pollution. And finally, you have controlling use of hazardous products. Now, there are some products whose use is harmful to the society, such as tobacco, alcohol, drugs, all of these. So these products should be produced and marketed as per the guidelines of the government so that their usage is restricted as far as possible. That is, they should be produced only up to the extent that is allowed, and when they are produced also, they should come with certain warning signs, like in case of the alcohol or in case of the cigarette packets, they always write cigarettes are injurious to health, smoking is injurious to health, and so on and so forth. Okay, so this is how they can control the use of hazardous products. The next thing we have to discuss is social stakeholding strategies. So after keeping in mind the various arguments supporting social stakeholding and those arguments which are against social stakeholding, we can see that business organizations have now come to realize that they do have certain responsibilities towards society. Okay, so various managerial strategies are available to determine the level of social responsiveness, and some of these strategies we can see here. You have your defensive strategy, proactive strategy, adaptive strategy, and obstructive strategy. So firstly, let's look at here defensive strategy. Now, a business can adopt a defensive strategy if it performs a social obligation as mandated under the law. So basically, defensive strategy is one where you are forced by the law to take up social stakeholders. So the defensive strategy is a plan which will keep the government at bay. All right, defensive strategy is planned to keep the government at bay, and it helps to avoid legal action and also to ensure that compliance will be done as per the law. So no more help is given to the society except that which is required for the firm, which is required by the firm, or that which has been mandated by the law. For example, again, as we see in the cigarette pact, we mentioned smoking of cigarette is injurious to health. That is a defensive strategy. They're only going to do what is required by the law and nothing more than that. They're not going to stop production of that particular harmful product, but they're only going to give you a warning. And the next strategy is proactive strategy. Now, proactive strategy is one in which, other than what has been mentioned by the government, other than what is required, when the firm is doing extra on its own voluntarily, then that is termed as a proactive strategy. Now, this initiative is something that is done not due to some legal obligation, but rather the organization itself will take initiative and they will pursue some social cause. For example, if the organization starts a free clinic for people, okay, so that will be termed as a proactive strategy. And then you have your adaptive strategy. So adaptive strategy is one where an organization will have to take up due to force from pressure brought from external groups. Okay, when they're forced to take up social stakeholding due to outside external groups other than the government. In case of the government, it's defensive strategy. When it's groups other than the government, then it's adaptive strategy. So, for example, you can have maybe lowering the wages of the worker, paying lower wages to the workers as compared to wages being paid by the organization. Or let's say if an organization or if a firm is giving lesser salary to their workers as compared to other firms who are in the same business, and if the labor union or the trade union are forcing the organization to pay the same salary as is being paid by others, then that is termed as adaptive strategy, where they have to adapt to the changing needs and demands of the people around them other than the government. And the last social stakeholding strategy is the obstructive strategy. So the organization may sometimes try to avoid, or they may try to delay the implementation of different measures which are essential for the welfare of the community. Then in that case, it's termed as a obstructive strategy, when they are trying to obstruct or when they're trying to prevent the carrying out or the implementation of certain measures. Now, the organization is not adopting the measures due to avoidance of costs and reduction in the profits. The main reason why they are not following up on these strategies, or when they're not doing the social stakeholding, is because, of course, as we mentioned, there is no income from social stakeholding. Okay, so that is one of the reasons why we have obstructive strategy. Now, a company may be said to be adopting an obstructive strategy when, let's say, for example, industrial waste is released from the plant, and as a result, it's creating pollution in nearby area, and the management is avoiding taking corrective actions on one pretext or another. Okay, that is termed as obstructive strategy, when they are not doing the social stakeholding by giving excuses. All right, so these are the 4 strategies that you have with regards to social stakeholding. And next, you have the areas of social stakeholding. Now, at present, a business is expected to balance the interest of various sections of the society. And when it comes to the business organization, profit motive is in fact one of the main objectives in order to satisfy the owners. But of course, there are various other stakeholders which expect other things from the business other than just profit. So the employees, consumers, government, the community, all of these also are the stakeholders of your organization or stakeholders of the business, right? So what are the responsibilities of the business towards each of their other stakeholders? So firstly, responsibility of the business towards its owners or towards its shareholders. So when it comes to the owners and shareholders, the main importance or the main responsibility of a business is to provide them with increased profits, right? So they must ensure that the shareholders, the investors, they get adequate return on their investments in the business. And then they should also ensure that information about the working of the business is going to be given to these owners and shareholders on a regular basis. So they should get information which is of their interest, which is relating to their inflow of profit or relating to their capital. And that the shareholders also should get correct information from their accounts. That is based upon the books of accounts, whether there's any profit or losses, they should be getting the correct information. And the accounts should not be falsified. There should not be any window dressing. There should be no misrepresentation or misappropriation of money. All right. And then the shareholders also should get proper representation in management. That is, when it comes to the people who are representing the owners, they should get proper representation, or the managers should be good managers. And then the value of shares should be increased so as to benefit the shareholders. Eventually, the earnings of the shareholders should increase. So therefore, the value of shares also should increase in order to ensure the shareholders are getting the benefit of investment. Okay, and next you have responsibility towards the consumers. So the main people who are going to be receiving the goods of the business are going to be the consumers, right? So they should be supplied with goods at proper prices and also good quality and also good quantity. So supplying the goods as per the needs of consumers and manufacturing the goods as per the requirements of the consumers is one of the responsibilities. Additionally, the business also should serve consumers by making available the goods and services as has been required by them. And then the goods also should be reasonably priced, and their quality also should be good and proper. And the business also should try to avoid any kinds of malpractices such as adulteration and then profiteering, black marketing, and so on. All right. And it must also provide a kind of a redressal system, grievances, to handle the problems or grievances of the customers. That means they should have a customer support system. So in case there are any defective products, in case there are products of poor quality, or in case goods are not conforming as per the promise of the organization. Okay. And additionally, also it must abide by laws aimed at protection of the consumers. Mainly, they should follow the Consumer Protection Act. All right. So this is the responsibility towards the consumers. And next you have responsibility towards the employees. Now, towards the employees, the business will have the responsibility of providing fair wages, okay, to keeping in mind the increased cost of living. And then they should also motivate the employees by giving them financial and also non-financial incentives especially for increasing their efficiency. And then they should also allocate the work according to the suitability, that is according to the experience of the workers, so as to give them job satisfaction. And then they should consult with the employee representatives also while taking decisions affecting the interests of the employees, so as to ensure that the decision making is not just by the management but also by the employees. And they must also promote cooperation and harmony among the workers, and they should also recognize the worker unions. And then it must have better working conditions also to ensure the safety of the workers. And additionally, the business should promote employees' welfare by providing them with maybe housing facilities, medical care, education to their children, retirement benefits, and so on. And it must also consider workers as the most important part of the business, right? Because they're human resources, and human resources are very important. So they should give them job security and also opportunities for development in the form of maybe further training also. Okay, so these are the responsibilities towards the employees. And then responsibility towards the government. So towards the government, the business should comply with the different laws passed by the government. Then they should pay the taxes on time in order to help the government collect funds, right? They should not resort to any form of tax evasion, and they should deal with their taxes honestly and also correctly. Okay, they should not lie to the government. And then it must also take constructive suggestions while some legislations are being framed on the business, and it should support the government efforts aimed at improving the quality of life of the people. In a sense, when the government is asking for better benefits for the workers, then you should comply comply with such rules and regulations. And also at the times, in case you have any kinds of national calamities like floods, earthquake, drought, and so on, business must try its best to help the government by providing or contributing towards the rescue and relief work. And finally, you have responsibility towards the community or society. So when it comes to responsibility towards the community or society, the business must ensure that industrial waste are not going to create any kind of environmental pollution. So that means that they should clear, they should take care of their sewage, they should take care of their waste. They should dispose of the waste in such a way that it does not harm the society. And then the business houses should set up new units at places where sufficient space is available for colonies, because this will help to ease the concentration of population at slums. They should not open in places where it's already quite populated. They should open in places which have more space, so that people can set up their houses also nearby. And then the business also should set apart a part of the profits for spending on civic and educational facilities, because this will help to reduce the burden on the government. Now, additionally, it must also take adequate safety measures with regards to production of hazardous or unsafe products, and it should not indulge in false advertising to promote its products by concealing the real picture of the products, and it must also aid and assist the organization engaged in promoting of sports and games, and it should also promote cultural activities which are essential for the healthy development of the society. Okay, so these are the different areas for social stakeholding. And next you have making social stakeholding effective. What are different ways in which the organization can ensure social stakeholding is going to be effective? Now, after learning about the various responsibilities that a firm has towards the stakeholders, it has become quite clear that the business organization, it cannot avoid taking up all these social issues. Okay, it cannot turn a blind eye to these social issues, mostly because it is living in the society, it's using the resources of the society. So this is not only in the interest of the business, but it's also required for helping the social stakeholders as well. So in order to implement social stakeholding in an effective way, it can take certain measures. So these are the measures. Firstly, support from the top management. So any measures which involves the financial commitment and also creation of mechanism to implement it will require the full support of the top management. If you want to adopt any kind of measures, if you want to do anything which requires money and also which requires the help of the organization, you will need the help from the top management. So taking up of social issues will also require decision making at the top, and also a mechanism will have to be created in order to implement and also monitor the measures for implementing of these different social issues. So in order to remain socially responsive organization, top management will be the one who will allocate the required finances, and also they will have to create plans or devise a mechanism upon how to implement the plans, okay, how to use the finances. And later, the lower levels of management can only implement social stakeholding. Okay, because only the top management is the one who can take the decision, because the top management is responsible for the most important decisions, and especially with decisions regarding to how to use the earnings, how to use the profits of the firm, only the top management can make such kinds of decisions. Okay, so if the top management is not supporting social stakeholding, then the lower level managers cannot do anything about it, because they do not have a lot of money on them, and social stakeholding is something that requires a lot of finance. So it's only with the support of the top management can social stakeholding be fully effective. So the lower level managers can only implement social stakeholding, but the decision for carrying out or for taking up social stakeholding will be entirely dependent upon the top management. Therefore, social stakeholding can be implemented only if the top management supports it. And the second point is making part of managerial process. Now, for social stakeholding, in order to make social stakeholding a part of the organization, it should also be made a part of the managerial process. Because when you make it a part of the managerial process, then the managers will have no other choice, they'll have no other option but to take up social stakeholding. It'll be almost as if it becomes one of their core or most important responsibilities. So it'll require framing of policies and budgeting the expenditure for various initiatives. And an institutional mechanism should be framed in order to identify and also to implement the social issues which are supposed to be taken up. And the stakeholders should also be consulted before specifying the steps to be taken in this regard. So not just the managers, but also the outsiders, your stakeholders should also be notified when you have decided upon taking up the steps with regards to social stakeholding. So therefore, the managers at your different levels, top, middle, bottom level managers, they should all know about the social issues to be taken up and also how they can implement them in a desired. So once the top level managers have supported social stakeholding and they have already communicated to the society that this is the work that is going to be done, or these are the areas in which they're going to carry out social stakeholding, then the same information should also be passed down to your middle level and also to lower level managers, so that because they are the ones who are going to be implementing the work. Okay, the top level will tell them what to do, and then they will be the ones who are going to be doing. Therefore, they should also be given this information or the details with regards to social stakeholding. Okay, so after they once they know all of the things that should be done, then they can implement them in the desired manner. And finally, measuring social stakeholding programs. Now, the performance of social stakeholding programs should be measured regularly. What is the benefit that has been derived from the social stakeholding? Is it beneficial to all of the stakeholders, or is it beneficial only to a group of stakeholders? Okay, it should be seen whether the programs have benefited the target social sections or not. This is essential not only from the point of view of the stakeholders, but also from the point of view of the management of the society, of the organization. The stakeholders will want to know whether or not the management has done enough, and the management will want to know whether or not it is beneficial to the stakeholders. Because if the amount spent on social programs is not benefiting the society, then the management will have to rethink the whole issue. They'll have to change their approach of social stakeholding. And the performance of such programs can be assessed especially with the help of a social audit. Now, a social audit is basically a way of measuring, understanding, reporting, and ultimately improving an organization's social and ethical performance. Okay, so you can measure social stakeholding programs with the help of social audit, and social audit refers to a way of measuring, understanding, reporting, and ultimately improving an organization's social and ethical performance. Now, some organizations may be assigned the duty to find the impact of social programs. It's not required that the firm itself or the business itself will carry out the social audit, but they can get somebody else to do for them, somebody who could be experienced in that area of work. Okay, so the social audit will be essential, especially to create confidence in such programs in order to ensure that the work that has been done is going to benefit the society at large. All right, so these are the different ways in which we can make social stakeholding more effective. And with this, we have discussed entirely about social stakeholding. And in your next class, we'll be discussing about the next aspect of this topic, which is managerial ethics.